I mean, it's so interesting because, Palaszczuk has obviously been a long-serving Premier. She was fighting to hang on to her job. We saw all the reports for months now that people were trying to get her to move on. She was refusing to go. But in the end, Andrew Carswell, it comes down to the faceless, factional men behind the scenes, the union bosses, saying, your time's up.
Well, surprise, surprise, Shari. Well, as Joe said, the Queensland Labor Party, particularly the left faction, are completely beholden to their union bosses. For 12 years, the Premier went into her office and picked up the phone every day, and on the other end of the line were the union bosses themselves. She didn't do anything without their say. What to say, where to go, who to appoint in cabinet, what to have for lunch. Anything that happened on any given day was ordered by the unions. And we won't see that change in this process as well, particularly if they go to Stephen Miles. I agree, he's not the right choice given the baggage that he carries from those COVID years. And this guy was the attack dog against everything the federal government did. He gnashed his teeth, he puffed out his chest, and he had a swing at the federal government at every attempt. So if he gets the role, he'll need to reinvigorate himself. And we've seen that in the past. We all remember, when Peter Dutton put his hand up for the leadership and went out and into the courtyard with a press conference and said, now I can smile again. The problem is, I don't think I've ever seen Stephen Miles smile. I'm not sure he's even capable of it. So a complete reset is needed here for the government here to retain power.
Look, the peculiar thing to many of us outside of Queensland, and actually even outside of Melbourne, is how governments that were so tough during COVID lacked empathy, caused so many problems with their approach, then got voted back in.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, it goes to a bigger ideological problem with the left of the Labor Party, which is precisely that it is a faction that is based on ideology and that it doesn't compromise that ideology for even the most obvious practical human reasons. And so, of course, you have this extremely hardline response in both Victoria and Queensland. And even when there are cases, like with people with sick or dying family members or children or whatever, they say, oh, no, Queensland hospitals are for Queenslanders, or the borders must be closed because we have to do it for Mother Russia. And that is a real problem. And again, at least in Victoria, it was a left. Well, strangely, in Victoria, you had the right used to have the numbers, and Dan Andrews from the left faction ruled at the right's pleasure. And then, of course, that got completely swept aside when the branch stacking scandal came up, and suddenly that state flipped to the left. Queensland is the exact opposite. The left has the numbers. Stephen Miles is the big architect, I suppose, of the left, and has Gary Bullock from the union sort of pulling his strings in the background. But Annastacia Palaszczuk is of the right. So basically, Palaszczuk served only at the left's pleasure, which is why whether she wanted to go or not was a completely moot point. If the left decided she wasn't electorally popular enough to be worth having around, she was gone, and that's that. And so that's why I think those were probably not just crocodile tears.
But what do you think, Andrew, about the proposition now that this does give the opposition a look in at the next election in Queensland?
Oh, I certainly think that is the case. And it's not because of a growing hatred of Annastacia Palaszczuk. I think quite the opposite. I still think there's a level of respect there from the public in Queensland. And you rightly said it, those outside of Queensland will never get that, will never understand why they voted for her the way they did, particularly through COVID. But it would be a mistake to say now that she's the reason why the opposition in Queensland are doing so well. I just think it's just that she lost her way a little bit. It's not because they don't like her. It's because she lost her mojo. She focused on other things. She didn't focus on the rising crime issues in Queensland. She didn't focus on cost of living. She loved the red carpet. So it wasn't a pushback against COVID. They loved what she did in COVID. We'll never understand it, but they loved it. It is a pushback against a 12-year-old government that needs to move on.